how to encourage other people to become vegan. And my biggest piece of advice that I can give to you and to anyone who asks me is to lead by example and be consistent. So I think it's that simple, and I think that's all that matters. So lead by example and be consistent. And tonight I'm going to talk about how to be consistent, how to be committed, and how to lead by example to be the best person and the best vegan that you can be. And this is whether or not you're in a business or just day-to-day life. And so Vegan Business Network put on this event tonight. So thanks Wade, thanks Jasmine for that. And they invited me to speak here. And they just gave me an open invitation to speak about whatever I like. So I hope you've liked this topic tonight. It's the first time I've given this talk. And they aim to include businesses and entrepreneurs to work together to understand what veganism is and how it can impact their business and the rest of the world. And I hope to see you at some of their other talks and their panels. And Billy Simmons, myself, and a couple of other people will be part of a mock meat panel in a few weeks' time, next month, I think. Yeah. And please have some great questions for me, because I'm going to allow some time for Q&A at the end. So I really liked the interaction with people. Make sure you're listening to what I say, for one, and to make sure we've covered off other things if I haven't had enough time to do them in the speech. So first off, what is consistency? And a basic explanation of that is regularity, constancy, stability, and lack of change or deviation. And what is commitment? Commitment is something dedicated, promised, a pledge or a vow that someone undertakes. So we're going to keep these things in mind tonight. And people want to look consistent with their words, with their beliefs, with their attitudes and their deeds. And most people tend to behave consistently with choices that they've already made. Once committed to an action or a stance, or even a football team, this becomes part of your identity. You will tend to act in a way that reinforces this choice at pretty much all times. And once we see something as part of our personality, for example, support the Gold Coast Suns, Brisbane Lions, you're a vegan, you are an activist, you're someone who donates your time or donates money to local sanctuaries or not-for-profits. And these are things you're willing to commit to more and more to become this person and to have this personality and to act consistently with that aspect of your personality. There's a great writer, and his name is Robert Cialdini, and he speaks about putting his scientific research on the field of influence into practical business applications. And I strongly suggest that you check out his website, which is influenceatwork.com, or read his books. And he has a 6 sort of step principles that he identifies to influence people. And one of them is commitment and consistency. So his description of the principle of commitment and consistency is that we feel we must always align our outer actions and promises with our inner choices and systems. For example, our beliefs and our values. And when we make a promise, we feel obliged to fulfill that promise. When we make a decision, we like to feel as though it's the right decision for us. And when we do something out of alignment with our beliefs, values, etc., we may change these inner aspects in order to restore this alignment. When we have committed to something, we tend to justify this commitment by inventing new rationale and seeking confirmation that we have made the right choice. Now, most people don't go straight into a big commitment. overnight. They would have smaller commitments that they commit to along the way. And these all add up to hopefully the same outcome. So for example, you're not going to just go, hey, I'm going to quit my job and start a new business overnight. There'd be sort of processes along the way that would add up to that. For example, you'd be doing something you enjoy on the weekend, start to make some money from it, start enjoying it, starting putting more time and energy into that, and then deciding, hey, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to focus on the business full time. And the more that you commit to something with either time, money, effort, or your identity, this becomes harder and harder to keep from a further commitment. This can be both a good and a bad thing. Marketers and social engineers, they use this and they use these bad aspects to get us to do what they want. So how can we commit to an outcome and not end up in over our heads? How can our commitments not lead to stubbornness or actions or go against what we stand for, even if it needs to change over time? And I think from this that we need to start at the word ethics and what that means. So ethics will be like moral principles that affect how people make decisions and live their lives, and what we deem as right or wrong. Choices that you make in regards to non-dietary aspects. And these things include clothing, cosmetics, household goods, and it also includes choices that you make in regards to, say, companies or places or events that do or do not exploit animals. So if you think about this and you think about knowing this and being committed to a vegan lifestyle, these ethics and my ethics, they help me to work out what foods, what clothing, what cosmetics, and what businesses I choose to support or choose not to support because of my commitment to being vegan. And it makes it easy, if you will, to live in line with my ethics and let my decisions reflect this. And we're given so many choices and decisions that we make daily. Commitment and consistency make things easier by reducing the amount of things that we need to think about. Make one decision and use this as a reference for your subsequent related choices. We always judge people by their actions, and we all know what it feels like to be let down and frustrated when someone says they'll do something or be somewhere and their commitment isn't kept. We don't trust these people in the long run with their word. And they will be consistent in their actions, of course, but it might not be in a positive way. And private commitments are really easy to break, especially with our online interaction that we have nowadays. I'm sure lots of people know people have been broken up with over text. So much easier to do than do it one-on-one. And what about a thought to think about is, if it takes a great deal of trouble, pain and effort to attain something, is this valued more highly than something that takes only a minimum of effort? So I'd like you to think about that tonight. And I just want to share a few things that I've heard over the years of being vegan, that I've heard other vegans complain about, that I've even experienced myself. There's a few things that you might not agree with that people do that you've seen in practice, and I just wanted to list a few of them and just have a think about how you feel that that sits in line with what you believe or what you think that they believe in. So some examples would be, what would you think of a vegan business that sells cow's milk? What would you think of vegan-friendly companies or plant-based companies that aren't vegan, the people aren't vegan themselves? What would you think about companies who source ethical products, but maybe they're not exactly ethical in the way they deal with their staff or their customers? What about some other issues, like social justice issues, from environmental issues, feminist issues, and many other issues as well? How people treat their staff is a really good way to gauge how their business is doing and how a business will be successful or not. How people act online, what are they sharing online, what's the tone they're using online, these sort of things. And also I've heard a lot of people don't seem to pay other vegan businesses when they owe them money. I think that's horrible. So these sort of things, for me, they make me wonder if I want to actually support these businesses with my money. And it's up to you whether or not you agree with these things. And I think these issues are examples of things that are upsetting to others because we don't agree with their interpretation of their own ethics. And so in business, the difference between a good and a great brand is consistency. From your logo to the colours you use in your marketing and your branding to the message that you share to promote your brand. All good things are built over time, they require thought, they require strategy and consistent implementation of these things. You need to focus on what you want to achieve and commit to the things you need to make them happen. Some examples would be, if you want to write a book, or you want to write some blogs, or you'd like to write an ebook, maybe focus on writing 500 words a day. That's your focus. Every day I'm going to write 500 words. I saw a bit of a laugh in the audience there, maybe 500 a week, is that better? And if you're focusing on a blog or you're focusing on podcasts, interview someone else a week, at least one person a week, at least write one blog a week. And you need to commit to this and be consistent in that. Also, it's really important to work out who and what you want your company to be associated with. Think about these points in regards to your business. And consistency helps manage perceptions, and it implies professionalism, purpose, stability, and instills confidence. Consistency shows your outlook and your attitude to deliver specific outcomes. For example, are you knowledgeable? Are you focused? Are you driven? Do you follow through on the things you say you will? Are you an expert in your field? All these things you can deliver through being consistent. Consistency protects your investment in your business by building a focused message, and it builds upon its past successes. And also, you need to communicate to your team or the people around you the importance of your brand and your message and your strategies. A friend of mine, Katrina Fox, you might have heard of her, she has a website called Vegan Business Media, and she's written an amazing book called Vegan Ventures. And she has interviewed, I think it was over 60 different people who own either vegan businesses or are vegan entrepreneurs. And they all share their experiences in their business and lots and lots of different things actually. Like one of the things, would you use the term vegan or plant-based in your business? I'm also in there because I answer quite a few questions on social media and marketing online. Now I'd like us all to take some time out to work out where our ethics lie. Where is your line that you don't cross? I gave a talk, I was part of a panel in Portland, Oregon in the States a few years ago, and it was a vegan fashion panel. And it was really interesting because there was 3 of us girls on the panel. And for me, being a vegan, I don't buy anything that comes from an animal, whether that's new or second-hand. But some of the other girls on the panel, they thought it was quite okay to buy second-hand things. So I found that really interesting, and we actually opened up this really great discussion with people in the audience too. And there's so many different lines that people have and lines that people will cross or won't cross. And it's really interesting to find your own. So, and you have to think about, does your own line in the sand match up with others? And I'd like to give a good example, because it's a bit of a contentious issue within the vegan community, whether or not vegans should consume honey. Now, if you bring it back to the original idea of what a vegan is not consuming, hurting, abusing, or killing any animals, including insects, then honey is not vegan. So if you're calling yourself a vegan, but you still eat honey, what are the things that you could do from here? So there's two options. You could maybe stop calling yourself vegan because you're eating honey, and that's from bees, and vegans don't eat anything from bees. Or you could choose to call yourself plant-based maybe instead. Or you could work out something else that works for you. And this sort of, I'd like to focus on maybe like the difference between going back on your words and actually changing and evolving, because they're quite different things. And I'm reading this book at the moment. It's called Reclaiming Conversation by Sherry Turkle. And it's all about us being connected but not actually conversing anymore. And she makes this really good point in regards to where we are versus where we want to be. And she says that we shouldn't confuse the difficult with the impossible, as everything good requires work. And if we ourselves commit to the work, then it's work that we know how to do. So look to other great leaders in your field for inspiration. See how they live their lives and model yourself on those who you admire. Now, consistent people are seen as rational, trustworthy, stable, and decisive. There will always be pressure, good or bad, to make decisions based on your past actions. Have a look at the pressure, for example, we put on politicians who change their policies. Have a look at pressure we put on vegan places that are no longer vegan, or even on the other side of the coin, I know non-veg places who've just become vegan, and the pressure that they are getting from their non-veg customer base. Each decision and step you take, no matter how small, is your own commitment to being consistent with your own beliefs and your own ethics. Know how to say yes and know what's important to you. Who you hire, what ingredients you choose, which businesses you deal with, which friends you make time for. But also know how to say no and what no longer works for you. What no longer brings you joy, and what is no longer on the same path for your own conscious evolution to being the best person you can be and the best vegan you can be. So I'd like, if you need any more information, I'm going to put this video up online on my vivalavegan.net YouTube channel, so I'll put the links to some of those books and websites I mentioned on there. And have a look at vivalavegan.net for more information across all social media channels. And I hope you got good questions, because I'd like to hear them. Thank you. Questions, please. Billy.
Was this talk inspired by a book?
Inspired by a book? No, not really, but I'm inspired lately this week or over the weekend from the book I'm reading about communication.
What was the name?
It's Sherry Turkle, I just forgot what it's called. She's like a psychiatrist, and she's done a lot of research into online behaviours, and just have to find where I wrote it. It's called Reclaiming Conversations. Reclaiming Conversations by Sherry Turkle. So the whole idea of the book, I can carry on about online stuff for a while, so stop me if you get bored, but she's explaining how we're all interacting with people online all the time, but actually to the detriment conversation, an actual conversation. And in particular with children, we're seeing that kids nowadays are not showing empathy, and that's because they're not interacting with people online. It's sort of like I was saying before about the, breaking up with people via text. Like if you're sitting down one-on-one to someone and you go, hey, don't want to see you anymore, you can maybe see their interaction, you can empathize and feel how they're feeling, you maybe might reconsider. But if you're doing a text, you're not seeing how they're reacting, which therefore means you can't empathise with how they're feeling. So anyway, it's a really good book.